When it's cold, wet and dreary like this, we can think of a lot worse places to be. I'm David from Top Gear Singapore, and we are in the back of the Bentley Bentayga EWB for extended wheelbase Azure edition. In case you're wondering, the Azure kind of sits between the regular EWB and the very high spec, completely bespoke Malina edition. So what's the difference with the EWB, you ask? Well, Bentley has added a very generous 18 centimeters to the back, which means that plenty of leg room. The front actually remains the same as the regular Bentayga, but for the rear, as far as we are concerned, I mean, we're not that tall, but it's still a really comfortable space, especially since they've reduced the sound. The rear wheel arch and the boot have had sound insulation improved, so sound has dropped by almost 25%. Of course, you get the double glazed glass. In fact, from the video now, you probably tell that it seems like a hush, very quiet, very tranquil place to be in. Now let's wind down the window a little bit. Hear the difference? Yeah, so notice the door is open, right? We can actually, it's now a one touch, press and hold, and it'll shut. Now, but notice, it only says door close. Now, what happens if we need to open the doors, right? I mean, you know, Sir never opens the door himself. Aha! A lot of the EWB's extra legroom in the back is just relegated to the rear. So we decided to hop to the front, drive the car and find out if there's a big difference from the regular Bentayga. First thing we notice is because it now has active rear wheel steer, this longer wheelbase car is actually more agile, or at least it's as agile and maneuverable as the regular Bentayga. So it always feels as though you're driving a much smaller car, even if the rear passenger would beg to differ. And the other thing we noticed is, sitting at the back, right, although a lot of the sound from the outside has been muted thanks to the extra insulation and whatnot, one thing that really came through was the sound of the V8 exhaust. You can hear the V8 exhaust in all conditions, and especially when you really put the foot down. And this is coming from the rear passenger. And when we're driving around, I mean, Bentley has introduced what they call the B mode. B is in the shape of the Bentley logo here. It kind of does everything. I mean, it's adaptive, so whether you're on the highways or on the small roads, or even some measure of sporty driving, the B mode kind of copes with it all in terms of suspension, transmission, and even the engine response. So I like this because I like to keep things simple. I don't want to fiddle through a screen, toggling through multiple chassis configurations or powertrain configurations or even transmission configurations, because that to me detracts a lot from the enjoyment of the car, because I just want to be able to get in and drive, and the B mode sorts this all out perfectly.
So after a whole day of filming, it's my turn to sit in the back seat, and he's going to be driving up a very narrow car park.
So remember, we were talking about the active rear steer, right? What's great about it is, I mean, this is a large car and it doesn't feel it because of how nimble the responses are. I mean, we've just negotiated our way into the car park ramp, and it never feels like it's a challenge, or it's overly big and overly unwieldy to manhandle around. Everything's just very natural, very tranquil. You know, it's a very leisurely and comfortable experience maneuvering it around, even in tight spaces. So I guess you must be wondering why I'm sitting so upright, especially when I have all this leg room to spare, right? Well, we're going to show you how to work the rear seat, which is an aircraft specification seat, although some people call it the business class specification. We hit the button first. So this is the first position. Notice that the rear isn't as reclined as you would expect, because you actually need to shift the squat forward a little bit, so the rear has enough space behind to recline. And well, this is as luxurious as you're going to get in the back of the EWB. And of course, there are actually two ways of controlling this. So if you don't want to use the door controls for the seats, you could always use this smartphone-like device, which is full touchscreen. Lets you control the airline seats. It lets you control, I mean, the climate, the massage and posture, as well as the adjustment for the seats. And there's even this VIP mode, right? So if you're wondering, I mean, only the rear seat that's not behind the driver's seat can adopt this position, because I mean, as you can see, it's the front passenger seat that really moves forward, and we can't imagine this happening on the driver's side, right?